Hi guys, Action 007 Cinema here. Warning, spoilers ahead. Today, I'm going to recap an American comedy crime movie released in 2015 called Focus. This movie is about an extremely accomplished con man who takes an amateur con artist under his wing. They both did several schemes together, but later they got separated. What do you think will happen between them? Will they find each other again and live happily ever after? Let's find out together. The movie starts when a guy called Nicky, a professional con man, has dinner in a hotel. There, Nicky sees a beautiful woman who looks uncomfortable with a man that seems to be pestering her. The woman sees Nicky is sitting by himself, so she approaches Nicky and uses him as a scapegoat. This woman's name is Jess. Afterwards, Nicky and Jess start to get to know each other more. Nicky offers Jess a ride home, but she lives upstairs in the hotel, and she seduces Nicky to go to her room, and they start making out. Suddenly, a man enters the room with a gun and threatens to shoot Nicky. Nicky jokes to him that he has cancer. That man finds that Nicky isn't worth killing, so he sets Nicky free. Subsequently, Nicky tells them that their con attempt was atrocious and advises them on how they should have done it if they really wanted to rob him before he left. Later at night, Nicky approaches Jess outside the hotel and invites her out for a coffee. Nicky tells Jess an inspiring story about two partners who are his father and grandfather. Listening to his story, Jess begs him to teach her. Eventually, Nicky agrees and says that the con is a game of focus. Outside, Nicky explains that attention is a spotlight and their job is to dance in the dark. Nicky also tells her that the human brain is slow and can't multitask, so they have to get inside the victim's head and perceive things from their perspective. He then wishes Jess luck and leaves. The next day, Nicky goes to New Orleans and visits Horst, Nicky's friends, and also his own team of grifters. A few days later, Jess finds Nicky and asks him to let her join the team. Nicky agrees to try her out and instantly introduces her to Horst. Few days later, it's Super Bowl week and the town is packed with people. Meanwhile, Jess joins the team for a practice round. In these crowds, Horst explains to Jess about her tasks as they lead her through crowded streets where they swipe watches, purses, and other jewelry from unsuspecting people. As a result, Nicky is impressed by her work and says Jess can join the team officially. Later on, they take Jess to a hotel casino, and Nicky explains to Jess that there are lots of tricks to deceive someone, such as stealing cars, identity, and also credit cards. Nicky then points out to her that there should be no romantic relationship between them, but sometime later, Nicky comes to her anyway, and they start getting it on. The next morning, they begin to do their scheme. Farhad, one of the team members, starts to pretend that he is having a heart attack, and he makes everyone around them panic. With this distraction, they accomplish their second mission, and at night, they throw a party to celebrate their success in stealing $1.2 million. After the party, Horst gives Nicky a bag full of money and makes him promise that he won't gamble with it, and Nicky promises him as Jess looks on. The next day, Nicky and Jess are going to a football game. Jess says to Nicky that she doesn't like football, so Nicky makes a game of making little bets with each other, like whether one fan will catch a hot dog and how many men will look at those girls' butt. Suddenly, a curious guy behind Nicky, Mr. Lane, joins their bets. Lane suggests they place some bet on the game. Jess declines it because she doesn't know anything about football. Meanwhile, Nicky accepts his suggestion, and they bet on $1,000 with Nicky losing. When Nicky wants to fold, Lane begs him to play along. Reluctantly, Nicky agrees and raises the bet, but he loses for the second time. The stakes escalate as the two get going. After losing almost $100,000, Jess thrusts the bag of cash into Nicky's arm and tells him that they have to leave. Instead of leaving, Nicky takes the money, slides it on the table, and bets all of the remaining cash, which is $1.1 million, on a simple high card draw. Lane is thrilled. He calls and draws a 5. Meanwhile, Nicky is elated as the odds are in his favor, but when he turns the card over he sees a 3, and he loses everything their team has been working on. Jess sits down hopelessly and Nicky just stands there stunned. Nicky then goes into the exit door, but Lane says to him arrogantly that it is his consequences for playing with him. Hearing that statement, Nicky turns around and decides to double the bet again. He tells Lane to pick any player on the field, and he will guess which one it is. Lane declines at first, but Nicky manages to convince him to agree. Lane later picks a player. Meanwhile, Nicky begs Jess to pick a player. Jess nervously scans the player through the binoculars and suddenly sees Farhad. Therefore, Jess chooses to pick Farhad's jersey number 55. Lane is surprised at Jess' choice because it turns out that Jess' choice is correct, and they bring the money with them and leave the stadium. On the cab ride home, Nicky explains to Jess that this has been planned from the beginning. He knew Lewin is a notorious gambler, so he set it up so Lane would see the number 55 throughout the day, subconsciously making him pick that number when the moment was right. Feeling amazed by Nicky's strategies, Jess then kisses him, but the taxi pulls over. Nicky tells Jess that she has done a great job and gives her $80,000 without explaining why he leaves her. Afterwards, he instructs the cab driver to take Jess to the airport. Nicky gets out of the car, leaving Jess confused and heartbroken. 3 years later, in Argentina, Nicky is working with a billionaire race car owner called Rafael Garriga and his guard Owens. They are in possession of a revolutionary fuel burn algorithm that will give them an edge in the upcoming season. However, Garriga is worried that this won't be enough. Therefore, Nicky is to pose as a disgruntled former employee of Garriga and sell a fake version to another team owner, McEwen, who is his biggest competitor. As a result, the competitor's car will get slower, while Garriga's car will get faster. Later at night, Nicky goes to Garriga's party, and he sees Jess coming down the stairs as Garriga's girlfriend. After getting drunk on Appletini's, Nicky plays his part as a disgruntled employee, but instead of shoving Garriga, he punches him right in the face, venting his pent-up anger at him for being with Jess. As a result, Nicky is dragged by Owens. Afterwards, Nicky is approached by McEwen's guard and is given McEwen's lunch invitation. The next day, while Nicky has lunch with McEwen, he gets distracted by Garriga and Jess' closeness. Nicky and McEwen resolve to get back to each other later when they have definitive proof that the fuel-burning algorithm that Nicky has is real. Later, Nicky approaches Jess and tells her not to trust Garriga, but Jess asks Nicky why she should trust him after he has left her behind. Jess then begs Nicky to pretend that he doesn't know her. Meanwhile, Nicky strikes a deal with McEwen for €3 million after data shows that Nicky's fake algorithm is credible. A few days later, Jess sees an older woman who loses her handbag. Jess picks the wallet and chases her, but the woman has already left. Then she goes to the woman's address. When she arrives, she hears a familiar voice call her to be more careful. Jess is surprised and also gets annoyed that the wallet's things are Nicky's strategies. Afterwards, they talk for a while and Nicky asks Jess to be with him and give him a second chance. Nevertheless, Jess tells him that she is now happy with Garriga and asks Nicky to stay away from her. As a last resort, Nicky asks Farhad to convince Jess to give him a break and that he's sorry about New Orleans. Farhad hands her the necklace she adored 3 years ago. Jess then agrees and they begin to talk. Nicky tells her that he has not worked in a few years because it doesn't feel right, and he even turned to his father for help. Nicky asks Jess to trust him again, but Jess doesn't believe him and leaves him. Later on, Nicky finds Jess crying at his door, and they start to make love. In the morning, Nicky tells her that he's leaving tonight and wants Jess to come with him. Right after that, Owens is at Nicky's door. He tries to get rid of him, but Owens just walks in while Jess tries to stay out of sight. Few days later, Nicky ends up selling Garriga's real algorithm instead of the fake one, not only to McEwen, but to every other race team for the same price. He wishes them all luck and gets the same response, which is who needs luck with friends like you. With all of the money Nicky gets from selling Garriga's algorithm, Nicky receives word that he has been found out, but he hesitates to leave without Jess. With time running out, he grabs his bags and opens the door to see Jess. Later, one of Garriga's guards rams into Nicky's car and he gets kidnapped to one of Garriga's warehouses. Garriga knows that Nicky has stolen his algorithm and has sold it to everyone. Garriga wants to know how he got the real algorithm. Then he suffocates Jess so that she can't breathe, until Nicky starts talking. Because Nicky can't see the girl he loves in pain, Nicky finally admits that he used Jess and put a bug on her necklace. When she returned to Garriga's hotel room, the bug intercepted his computer password. Jess starts to cry and Garriga laughs because he knows it's a lie and takes the tape off her mouth. Jess then admits to Nicky that Garriga isn't her boyfriend. She just wanted his watch, which is worth 200 grand. She has never slept with him and was not even in his room, even though Garriga kept trying to get into bed with her. Jess did all this to make Nicky jealous and to get revenge. Nicky finally settles for telling the truth, and just as he's about to start, Owens shoots Nicky's chest, which horrifies Garriga and causes him to leave while Jess cries and tells him she loves him. It turns out that Owens is Nicky's father under disguise, and he shot him to chase Garriga away. He also manages to get the blood out of Nicky's lungs and brings him back to life. Owens tells Jess that he was in on the scam all along and just performed the Toledo panic button. Owens also tells Jess that Nicky got the real algorithm because Owens has given it to Nicky on the package he left one morning in Nicky's room. At the end of the story, Owens drives Nicky and Jess to the nearest hospital. He reminds Nicky of what he has said regarding putting your heart into the con game. They finally walk through the entrance of the hospital together with a smile on their face. At the end of the day, making a room for heart in the con game is worth dying for. Because who needs money if you don't have someone you truly love, right? Anyway, what do you think about the story? Are you satisfied with the ending or wish to see more about Nicky and Jess' scheme? Let us know what you think in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you next time.